So welcome to our all-encompassing session of we're going to cover everything all at once, all together in now an hour and 5 minutes.
It sounds like a movie. Everything.
Sounds like a movie. Everything, everywhere, all at once. But thank you for being here, and really, and more seriously, to cover our agenda. Yeah, it is being recorded to Zoom. I'll have to put the slides separate from the recording, but at least it will have me being recorded. I want to start with a little an exercise for grounding ourselves, then talk about where are we, where are we going, and how are we going to get there? And will we answer all those questions? You can be the judge when we get to the end of the session. So I want to try and exercise with you. It may not be exactly what you were expecting of this particular session, especially to start with, but I hope you're willing to play along. Okay. I wanted to make use of the beautiful place where we are, and I hope that I didn't get to walk out of the door. I'm hoping this beautiful sunshine means that it's a little bit warmer out there now. And I'd like to do a little bit of exploring the power of awe, A-W-E. So here's one definition of awe: an overwhelming feeling of reverence, admiration, and wonder. I don't know if anyone has other words or thoughts they want to throw out when you think of the word awe.
Breathtaking.
Breathtaking. Visceral. Gratitude. Sometimes I feel heart pounding. Sway. Oh, slay. Slay. Serenity.
Fascination.
Fascination. Good words. So there have actually been, as I started looking into this, I threw out this idea to one of my fellow regional coordinators who said, you should do an awe walk, as I started thinking about these things. So I started looking more into it and finding out that there's actually all this, there's been some new scientific exploration about feelings of awe and helping get in touch with our sense of awe and some of the benefits of that. I was like, wow, this is better than I thought. It really helps us to, it can help jolt us out of our self-focused mindset, stirring feelings of wonder and inspiration that remind us that we're part of something larger than ourselves. And I think that's so important when we're like really looking at the climate, and sometimes especially as CCL volunteers, we're thinking about what's my particular action with my particular job. Awe can help get us back out into that sense of connection of others, can jolt us out of looking just at ourselves. And research suggests that awe has a way of lifting people outside of their usual routine and connecting them with something larger and more significant. This sense of broader connection and purpose can help relieve negative moods, improve happiness. It can also make people more generous as they become less focused on themselves. And evoking feelings of awe may be especially helpful when you're feeling bogged down by day-to-day concerns. So sometimes we think of awe as like going to these far-off places and seeing these beautiful things, but they also show that this is kind of a feeling that we can practice of just creating in ourselves right where we are. Right? You don't always have to go somewhere else to experience these benefits and these feelings. So this process is often done as a walk, so that's one thing I'll encourage in a little bit, is to have you go outside and walk around. But I also brought along a box of some objects if you are one that wants to stay inside. We have options for you, so anyone who doesn't want to pull that box up. But part of this process then, one is to, focus first at breathing deeply, right? Just letting yourself really breathe deeply. Often one that you might have a count as you breathe in, maybe to 6, and maybe 6 as you breathe out. Or if you have another favorite number, this is not a prescription, this is a suggestion. Okay? Focus on your senses. You know, how do your feet feel on the ground? How does your butt feel sitting in the seat? How does the air feel on your face? What sounds do you hear around you? You know, what is the light like coming into your eyes? And then shift your awareness from yourself to what is around you. Looking at, looking at what is, far away, what is close up, what are the things that surround you, and let your attention be open to exploring and being inspired and a sense of curiosity of what is around you, no matter how big or how small. Try to approach with as if you're seeing things with fresh eyes, as if it's the first time you ever saw that leaf on the ground, or the first time you ever saw that lake out there, or the first time that you smelled whatever that smell is. And as you continue your walk, or your time sitting, continue with an open mind and continue to come back to just pausing and taking a deep breath every so often as you do so. So now I'm going to invite you to go try this. And I'm going to set my watch for 10 minutes. It's not huge, just 10 minutes. But like I said, you can take a walk outside for 10 minutes. You can choose something from the box to look at. Or you can choose your own adventure. If you have a piece of inspiring music that you'd really like to sit and listen to instead, that's all right. Or if you feel more like sitting and closing your eyes and imagining one of those places you've been to that really fills you with awe, that's an okay thing too. So this isn't you don't have to do it any particular way. But I'm going to just invite you to go ahead for the next 10 minutes. So, that's 11:12. I have a nice cowbell, but I will wait outside to bring it back again in 10 minutes. I'll see you back in 10 minutes.
Mindy, I noticed another thing about the screen that looks like they were lightly present on it. I wonder if that's part of making it privacy.
I missed the assignment.
Design this to get into the sense of block. Oh, big block.
That's fine. Yeah, I guess warmed up a lot. What is Tougaloo? Is it a?
So historically, Black College in Jackson, Mississippi. So I went there for a year.
Oh, you did? Okay, as part of a program where you?
Yeah, Tougaloo and Brown University had a cooperative relationship between boards of directors, faculty, and students. So students could cross-register.
What's it mean?
I was there in the fall of 1971.
Okay. And Tougaloo, is it a location or is it?
Tougaloo used to be a location. Unfortunately, they either chose to or were annexed into Jackson, which meant they ran into all the Jackson water.
Thank you for coming back and taking your seats again.
Their own governmental entity.
Or taking a seat, you can choose a different one this time. Yeah, lots of object. Well, welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you for playing along. I wasn't sure people would think that was just really odd or that it would be a fun thing to try. So thank you for playing along. I want to give you a little, just kind of help bring you back to this space. Let's take a deep breath together. Now I'd like you to just turn to someone who's next to you. And just take a minute or 2 minutes, a minute each, to just say, what was that experience like for you? Switch people if you haven't both had a chance to talk yet. And they're talking about it and all right, I think you just finished your sentence. Finish your sentence and come on back again. All right, does anyone have something they would like to just share out with the group from that experience? Discovered an apple tree. Are there apples on it? Apples on it. Did you taste any of them? So someone's going to have to point out where this apple tree is for those who'd like to. Oh, right outside the door. Well, that seems pretty easy.
I have a question. I noticed that everything I hear outside is something that's interfering with the movement of the wind. Then I thought, is air by itself?
Does air by itself make noise? The only hear the impact.
You're on air.
Yes. I heard that air moves at different speeds.
And then I hear we have many that have scientific explanations, and this is like the wisdom in this room is amazing. Yes. Anyone else have something they'd like to share about having tried that? A lot of types of different mushrooms, and I said that to you, and I too saw one that I probably could have kicked it over when I went one direction, because I didn't even see it. When I turned around and came back, the sun hit it, and then I could see this mushroom. It was hiding. And I found it helpful. He's taking back in life.
I saw her cheering her artist.
Lots of fishing. All right. So what did it feel like for you? Did it give you any new insight into how you were feeling? Yes. Relaxing. I think I hear felt very holy. I was going to say it's interesting it's a quick and powerful way to connect with the Creator. Part of something bigger. What was that? Adventure. So the feeling of the wisdom of nature, all of this. Yeah. So that's why did I choose this exercise? Partly because I think it's really easy to get stuck. I find myself getting stuck very easily in the vastness of what's wrong, the problem all around us, the so many things that need to get fixed that I'm not doing enough, and that can lead to despair and inaction more than action. So finding a way to kind of help break us out of that, to feel that sense of appreciation, to hopefully lift your spirits, bring you some joy or something to enjoy, to help you relax. I heard that might have been successful. Give you a sense of connection, but then also to help you. I also hope that this will help you kind of connect with others in this room. Right? It's something you can continue to share about. What did you discover? You can share about throughout the weekend is another way of connecting us to each other, because of course that's what's so important about this conference, is remembering that we are not in this fight alone. We are not facing this challenge of climate by ourselves. we are a collective group with many different ideas and ways of approaching it, and some collective ideas and ways of approaching it. So it's that interconnection that I think was really important. So here's for our first step. For our next step, where are we? For one, we're finally back together again. So our last regional in-person conference was 2018 in Rapid City. So it has been, we've had people getting together in pockets, but I think it was 2018, and it was in Rapid City. So yes, we've had a DC conference, but that tends to be a smaller group of people that can go that far. So we're past the pandemic version and some of that isolation. I know that's not true for all people's experience, but it's at least somewhat past. And so I really want to kind of get a sense for this. Where are we? Of how's it feeling in your chapters? How's it feeling? And you don't have to be a chapter leader to answer this question. You don't even have to. Maybe if you're not in a chapter, your answer might be something about how does it feel for you as a part of CCL. So I'm curious, are you hopeful? Are you excited? Are you frustrated with Congress? Are you worried? Are you tired? How's it feel? I think I'd love to just pass the microphone. Yeah.
I'll just try to keep that in mind. This is sort of over the past year or so. There's never been so many advances in what we can do, technology, production, and so on one hand, I've never been more helpful. I've really thinking about solutions. I know the problems, whatever. But then, so I've never been in the whole, but then I haven't been climate's falling and so I've never been more scared at the same time. I'm not going to the madhouse, I'm going on the madhouse, but it's pretty long.
Yeah, and it can be overwhelming on both sides, right? Overwhelming in the vastness of the problem and how quickly things are changing, and overwhelming on all of the things we have to choose from to take action on, and which one's going to work fastest. Because that's first in the name.
Well, I was just going to say, I think in our chapter, we realized this, we probably 30 people that which is good for us. But it's because people are seeing it happen, and now that is very motivating for people. So it's this double-edged sword. Yeah, it's really
So as human beings, we're not very good at looking ahead and planning for the future as much as we try to. We're much more rooted in the here and now. So it's a great example of as much as we don't want to see it accelerating faster, it's becoming more visceral for the general public, for people around us, and more people are starting to go, oh, you really were talking about these kinds of things when you said climate change. Marian, let's tell it.
I don't know.
You speak real loud.
He was doing everything. And so when we started that up, the three of us we had a lot of all the groups amplify so we started to talk about and it's baby steps.
A coalition meeting that's every Monday morning sounds like more than a baby step.
We also have other groups that have they might be like their story of the working on what the message they want to get out there. And then we also do our message there. And on the plan, we have 3 or 4 bigger than all of those being part of that. And that has probably not real, not real screen. There's so, and it's given hope because it's so many other organizations that really are working to open we're exploring how we can use that.
I saw Scott's hand, and then Ann, and then Paul, and then Jeff.
So, I would say that more or less when I start as a student,
Yeah. Lots of different ways that these things impact us, and looking forward and hearing more and more of that sense of, it's urgent and we're not acting fast enough. I saw Paul's hand, and then Jeff, and then Jeff. And more than a
from 12 years up to 18. I mean, we're not giving them vision that makes them any sense. We have the ability to all but I never had the privilege of living through all this.
There is a good point. We have more of older generations than younger generations, but that is one of the things we're working on. So I'm actually really excited by the number of youth that we have here, and that's part of what James is trying to help us do in connecting with campuses too. But I hear that of hope, but I think there's hope. We need hope ourselves that we're doing okay. We need hope for the next generation, and we need to have this be a collective action, right? Sometimes Sometimes I don't know if you feel as younger people that sometimes we'll look at you and go, well, you're going to have to fix this problem, right? And that's not fair to say that you have to fix that problem. And it's also not fair to say that, the boomer generation, which is actually a little bit older than I am, and me, who's kind of in the middle, and those that are just the next generation below me and then younger, right? It's also, it's not fair to suggest that any one generation has to fix this problem, right? We have to figure out how to do it together. It's one of the fun things about one of the games we were playing last night that was trivia from the different decades, right? And that the teams, in order to work well, we had to combine people from different generations in order to be able to answer the different questions. And that is like the root of what we need for solving climate change too. We need the young, fresh ideas, and we need to be able to elevate any of those voices that aren't being heard, right? Look for the voices that aren't being heard to elevate them to help us solve the problems. Thanks for bringing that up. Thanks for bringing that up. Let's see, who did I say was next? I think Jeff. Now I'm starting to lose track. But,
Well, I can remember the first time that I was reading about the statute in 1958, in the 60s and early 70s. Time to really see it. I've seen a lot of it. But we were just a few weeks ago, we went to a town hall, it was a political town hall. And we heard that they're talking about our solutions are in technology that's not alive yet. And I'm very optimistic that that's not true at all. They have patents on the machines that make cars burn gas vapors, produce no pollution, with about 30% more efficient. Why haven't we gotten those yet? But I see a lot of encouragement. I see people who can get lands, people that are different than me, different age people. So I'm really optimistic. A lot of people are coming together and looking at this and find out
yeah, a lot of collective wisdom. Yes, I don't remember who was name. Oh, Kathy, yes, that's what I was forgetting what I did.
Very privileged in a lot. And one thing that I was reflecting on is, first of all, climate change is getting closer. I heard many years in Alaska in this summer. I was there this summer. And ice dam that broke. And my niece had just moved into a new condo. That room that it had flooded. I mean, the whole bank, it's on the weather channel. You can see it on the weather channel. The whole house went into the river, and it happened to be somebody I knew. And it's like, oh my God. I thought that the people who were most impacted, and not that it's okay, but I feel like we need to reach, somehow connect with the people, those in really within those people, the people who are most disadvantaged because of all of the different things how we basically our gardens and what side of the church you live on and all of it, but we're also now seeing that those of us who certainly in Alaska because we have plenty of water. We have mountains and we have all this beauty. But and here I moved to Minnesota and I feel the same way. I live in an area that I feel very privileged to be in. And yet it's under the skirt, and but we also I'm just wondering how do you make change for those who really seriously or they hear in the heat of the summer because people are living in those cities. Where can they find shade?
Yeah. So thank you. It brings us more of that privilege of just plain getting here. I'm actually gonna, there's so much we could do with this. I'm actually gonna move us on for a little bit. And we'll probably have more time to continue these conversations. So thank you to those who I didn't let speak. Dana gave us a really good reminder and overview of all of our CCL agenda. I had thought we would walk through some of this, but I think I'm going to skip over this part because I don't feel like we did. Does anyone feel like they really need to spend much time on our CCL agenda at the moment? So it is just exciting to say the Energy Innovation Act is back.
5744. Remember, 5744.
I'm glad you remembered because I've already forgotten. 5744. Oh, it's even right there. I just stole the slide from someone else's presentation. So it is officially called the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. But we can call it the Energy Innovation Act because there is no other bill with that name, which years ago there were two of them similarly named. So we can call it the Energy Innovation Act so you don't have to say all of it, but it is officially the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend. Animation in there. This is just one other thing that I was thinking about in our chapters, that I sometimes get questions from people like, what do you tell people? What do you tell people? What do we do? Right? When someone says, what are you doing? What do you do? When you're inviting me to come join your chapter that is taking action, what are you doing? So what do you tell people? Do you feel like you have a good sense of what to tell people when you're doing onboarding the people that are coming to your chapters, or when you're tabling, when you're presenting, when you're just talking to family and friends about CCL? You feel like you know what to tell them to do. Talking about it.
The provisions of the IRA, people like the members of your public. And so we really specific like that. We have to for that today. And that was not good. And so that pushing the education is people would want to do that. I tell you, everything else is, so that's kind of a dilemma that we created for ourselves. And maybe what we're just saying is we have to focus in the moment. Small chapters, rather than
Okay, I'm hearing we really need to pass the mic for people that are talking.
The importance of digging circles where you don't have to quit your deck all the time, so you can see people and feel that.
Yeah, and I just.
Yeah, so I'll just follow up on what Linda was saying. So yeah, it's a big policy agenda now, and there's a lot of aspects to it, and there are levers, there are 5 levers, and it can get really complicated, and you can. But I would like to advocate for keeping the conversation simple for somebody who doesn't know what CCL is, which is to say the thing that distinguishes us from a lot of other climate organizations is the focus on lobbying. We are not so much a protest organization. I don't think we do much in the way of organizing mass protests. What we do instead is to try to set up meetings with lobbyists. And that's sort of like the primary thing. Citizens climate lobby, the lobby word is the key thing. But then coming out of that, there's all of these spokes that, if you can get a conversation going, you can talk about other things that we're doing in the specific legislation that we're promoting. But we're a lobbying organization before everything else, in my opinion. Mike.
No, I'll be brief, but I'll come over here where people can maybe see me a little bit better. So I was a regional coordinator 4 years ago. My son died of suicide. So that was a big change in my life. And I left CCL as a staff person. And since then, I found my training in CCL has made me incredibly effective with Elders Climate Action, with my Peace Corps group, with the high school students. And so I'm using skills, not so much because Mindy's doing all the work on the lobby piece, but not everyone wants to lobby, but everybody wants to take action on something that's important to them. So when we're talking to people, the key thing is, what are you interested in? Open-ended questions. That we have a workshop on motivational interviewing. Get out of the way and just be there to find out what's important to them. I'm a cross-country skier. I talk to skiers about winter disappearing. It's a different way of holding the game. It's not promoting your cause. It's connecting the relationship. Who's next?
One thing I probably said it wrong, that you correct me, what I was trying to get at. It's not so much that we should say this.
It's not so much that we should say, this is all we do, this is what we do. But I do feel as though we are different from, if somebody's expecting to get involved with an organization that is very in your face and protest oriented, that probably wouldn't be CCL. So the idea was to try and find some simplifying description of CCL, but I don't want to say that that you don't listen to what other people are saying. Yeah, that would be a mistake. Yeah.
See James back there, I haven't heard from him yet.
I just want to say first, I think this conversation is fascinating. Coming from someone that just started really letting others know how passionate and caring that I am about environment and climate and things of that nature. And joining CCL, and since I joined CCL up to this point, have seen a shift in some of CCL's policies while also staying centered in what they like to do, like lobbying. So I think it's a great way to sort of expand as a, this is why we form and what we do a lot of lobbying, but also understanding to broaden our reach. And the best way to broaden our reach was advocating more for healthy forestry and things of that nature. As myself in the higher education part of CCL, it's great as a college student, but I have these conversations that someone that hasn't had 10 to 15 years of scientific research and experience, and I can have everyday real life conversations with them, why I'm also expanding on my knowledge as well. Because I have two amazing panelists up in the front that'll be part of the panel session. Sorry, same spot, but two amazing panelists that will get to speak and get to talk about some of the things that reflect to them. And I think it's a great way, as sort of pointed out, as of the younger individuals in this room, is a great way to empower everyone and everyone to feel collectively they're part of this solution, which there's multiple solutions. So it's definitely amazing for myself to sort of sit back a little bit. So I talk to a lot of people all the time, so sometimes I like to sit back and sort of hear what's going on. So I definitely enjoy this conversation. So keep it going.
I have one more person who might not think how are you. Let's do one more, then we'll move on.
Mindy, and with all those categories you listed, one thing I always try to do is what I was taught from CCL, that Congress doesn't lead and we follow, but we lead and Congress follows. But we just have to demonstrate to Congress how many people are part of us citizens who want them to go in a direction and keep pushing them in that direction. We lead, they follow, and get that message out there and invite and encourage people to be part of that leading.
Thank you for all that input. And I came back to this slide because I just wanted to make sure that we looked again at this definition, right? That CCL works on policies that are effective in reducing net emissions and building bridges both in Congress and in our communities. So I think some key things is policy. So sometimes instead of telling people we lobby, although it's in our name, I will say we work on policy and we advocate for policy. We do that by direct lobbying, but we also do that sometimes. People would not necessarily think that calling a member of Congress is lobbying, and they might be afraid of the word lobby. So we advocate for policies, right? But then also building bridges in Congress. We know that's our really hard part, is building those bridges in Congress, but also in our communities. And that's more of that, reaching out to whose voices haven't we heard, part of it too. So thank you for that. I want to move on to another exercise. No, actually, I will just touch on this just really quickly. So where are we going and how are we going to get there? So I think the policy agenda is a part of, where are we going? And I think Dana said it well, of we have some things that get emphasized at one point and other things that get emphasized at another point nationally, based on where national legislation is moving. And it's a lot to have our DC team that's trying to help keep us, kind of guide us in, here's where the political will is, so we want to push harder there, right? And your own chapters will also choose things that might be, something that's very relevant in your community. And sometimes that's the same as we're working on nationally. Sometimes you may find an opportunity in your community that's very relevant and you want to do that right now. And maybe you aren't doing the same action as everybody else nationally for a moment. And that's okay. That's good too. Okay. So that's part of, where are we going? Where are we going? Continues to have that autonomy of chapters to keep looking at within our broad agenda, what exactly do you want to work on? And also giving the guidance from the national side of where do we feel we have the best leverage to move political will. So that's what we will continue to try and shape nationally within that agenda. And part of that is you'll keep hearing this theme coming up for 2024, that we'll have our 50 state strategy, growing our grassroots power. That's our clever marketing name, to say we really just want to keep invigorating and reestablishing and growing the chapters we have, look for opportunities to grow into new chapters, which we're really at. Within our region, we have chapters in every district. Some of them are more active than others, but we actually have chapters in every legislative district. So I'm not as concerned about us starting new chapters as really solidifying our activity in the districts where we are. But that's how we'll fit into this. And Ellie Sparks has been leading some training that has kicked off. That's a terrible slide to try and read, isn't it? So she's kicked off already a train the trainer session that lays out a model somewhat for both restarting and starting new chapters. But through a lot of conversation that I've had and other regional coordinators have had with her, she is continuing to incorporate more and more of how do we reinvigorate the chapters that we have, and how do we help activate people that are in our chapters. So you can look for more of that. She's going to repeat the train the trainer after October. She hasn't decided exactly what date yet, but that's kind of where we're going. In January, it says kick off 50 state strategy, trainers action team supports the strategy, and then all year in 2024, it says grow our grassroots power. So, Ellie Sparks, who's our, I can't remember what her title is, but she essentially is, she's in our program team, and she oversees all of the regional coordinators. So she nationwide looks at our programs. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about requesting, because this is a key thing that we're always doing, right? So I asked, what do we tell people we do, right? And then how do you get people to do things? That's the other key part, right? How do you get people to do things? And okay, I know it's terrible. You should never hand out a piece of paper, because then everyone will start looking at the piece of paper, but I'll hand it out anyhow. Or if someone would like to help me. You can take half of it there. I apologize. Some of them are, you'll notice the second page is upside down, but I didn't want to reprint the whole batch, so I kept it with that. So I just want to spend a little bit of time because I think it's really valuable to look at how do we ask people to do things? How do we make requests? And we've had a workshop similar to this at some of our virtual conferences, some of our online conferences. You may or may not have seen some of this before. So if you have seen some of this before, I just suggest maybe you could find something new in it again. So and who knows, it might be a little different than you've heard it before. Oh, I forgot to keep one of those up here for myself. Okay, thank you. I just want to come back to this quote that I love from Marshall Saunders, who is our founder for Citizens Climate Lobby. I realized that ordinary people like me would have to organize, educate ourselves, give up our hopelessness, and gain the skills to be effective with our government. And you saw I stressed give up our hopelessness because that's the part that really spoke to me was like, oh, it's much easier to just go, oh, that's too much to do. We can't possibly do it, you know, but actually being willing to like say, all right, I'm going to give that up even for 5 minutes and try and do something. But gaining the skills, right? So this is another step in gaining our skills. So these are really just thinking your head a little bit more about, you know, what kind of requests do you make? And you can actually think about it. We do this all the time, right? It's not just in our CCL work. Really, you do this all the time from, you know, asking someone if they can give you a ride somewhere to, you know, please pass the salt, right? Really, you actually are making requests all the time, some more significant than others. So what kind of requests do you make and what are your results? Especially if you think of some of the ones that might be harder. What are the results that you're getting in those requests? So what difference would it make if the requests that you made were more effective? Right, and I just was looking at the time and realized, okay, I'm gonna jump ahead a little. You can jump ahead to this particular of what are the elements of a powerful request, right? So especially if you're trying to get someone to do something for CCL, really clear one for CCL, we're used to always starting with appreciation, right? And that works for everything, starting with an appreciation. Or if I'm going to ask someone to do a particular task, why did I pick them? Sometimes it's because I knew somebody had a really good skill, and I might start by appreciating that skill, right? And asking a question. There's also some good tips on this sheet. You know, really being clear about. I'm jumping around a little bit. Be clear about what you want and asking for all of what you want, right? So think about what you want and what is exactly what you want. What is everything that you want this person to do? Because it's really easy to start by already minimizing what we want them to do, right? You want to ask for everything you want to do. You want to give them a time frame. Sometimes it's that you want an answer right away. Sometimes it's, can you get back to me by a certain date? You want to be very clear. Here's exactly what I'm asking you to do. And then this last one, they can accept, decline, or counter offer. This was like mind-blowing to me to stop and think about the fact that, oh yeah, you can renegotiate anything you ask. And when you start by telling someone, I'm going to ask you something, and you are free to say yes and no, or offer something different. And getting really clear with yourself that no is an okay answer. And I think sometimes that's what stops us from really making a full request of exactly what we want, is that fear of getting a no. And is that going to say that I'm a bad person because they don't want to do this for me? No, they just are busy, right? So you really have to get yourself into that being okay with a no, because a no helps you move forward. Oh, good, I'm not going to wait counting on the fact that that person is going to do this for me. They're not. So now I know I can go on to the next person. And I'm not stuck in this limbo of, oh, maybe they'll say yes, maybe they'll say no, right? So getting really clear about that. And there's some good points. So that's being attached to the response. The other key pitfall is trying to guess in advance what they're going to say. So it's like, just craft everything that you want, but try not to be attached or not predicting what you think they're going to say. You know, not that, oh, if I ask them, I know they're going to say no. Or, oh, if I ask them, I know they're going to say yes. Because sometimes they don't really think they will. So I want to have just a couple minutes to actually try this. Because I think that the most important thing is just like picking a partner. And this can be something really simple. But like, just ask a question and your first answer is to say yes. Just so you remember, like, at least I feel like someone goes yes, you know? And then I want you to say no. No other kind, just no. So that you get okay with, try practicing that. All right, no is okay, I can just keep moving on. And then say, make a counter. So I'm compressing this into a really short time frame here for you to do this because we only have a few more minutes before we're supposed to break for lunch. But I think it is valuable to still try to practice and pick someone next to you. Keep way back there if you want. All right. I'll give you a 2-minute warning so you can see if one partner gets through all 3 of those in 2 minutes. Be sure you switch if the other partner hasn't had a chance to practice asking yet. I thank you for trying that out. Ask you to come back again to just our final points here for now. All right, come on back, folks. This was good. You want to keep talking? All right, one more, just a little bit, just a couple more points here. It was helpful that I actually jumped in and took a partner for a little bit because it reminded me that there's another thing that I wanted to say, which is the one that's number 7 on your sheet, is providing space for a genuine reply. And to make it easy, right? When someone tells you no, appreciate the fact that they told you no. That's a really, because that, I think for me, when I tell them thank you for telling me no, I'm also telling myself that I'm glad they said no so that I can move on. But how does it feel like when you were the one saying no? How does it feel to say no? So for some people, it feels really good. All right. For other people, it can feel like really bad. But so that's a good thing to be in touch with. Sometimes it's good for us to remember that saying no is the right answer, right? So saying no for other people sometimes is the right answer. And that it might have been really hard for them to say no, even though it's the right answer. So learning to appreciate when people say no is also a really good exercise.
If they say, let me think about it, then you don't know what you do.
Yeah, if they say, let me think about it.
Later, how we're getting a yes or a no allows you to move to the next question.
Yep, and if they say, let me think about it, that's when trying to give them a time frame. And also make sure that they still know that they really can say anything, that their genuine response is the most important. They might be a person that needs to think about it, so you can give them a little time. They might want to think about it because they're afraid to say no. So as long as you reiterate at that point, it's okay to say any of those things. They might then say, well, okay, I've thought about it. The answer really is no, right? Or they really do need to think about it and then give them the time. Yeah. Not usually it's a little more. Yeah, so that because there's another piece on here about nudging people when they've said they'll get back to you and they haven't of a genuine way. So there's a lot of nuggets in that sheet. Taking any one of them and practicing them and seeing how that goes with your requesting. I just thought this was an important thing to kind of think about that really is important in making us more effective.
And can you say something about the partnership program?
Yeah, I'm not sure when Jean. I'm not sure when Jean is. I put her contact information on the bottom there. Jean Reitag. I have done her empowerment partnership program, and I continue to be in one that's called Transcending Your Limits. So she has a number of kind of ongoing things. She's a volunteer with CCL, but did some of this in her professional work and has volunteered to give this program multiple times to our CCL volunteers. And this is just one piece of what she does in that program, kind of helping you really examine how your brain works. What are the things about our own psychology that prevent us from being effective in getting things done? So it is a good, yeah, her contact information is there. If you're interested in learning more, you can contact her directly. So with that, I'm going to just wrap us up for now, because it's time for lunch. I know there were plenty of other questions and comments out there that we didn't get to, but we're only at lunch on Saturday, and we have another 24 hours plus together. So feel free to grab me at some time if you have a question that I didn't answer, or grab each other or anything like that. So we're back over in the dining room for lunch until 1 o'clock, and then we have the next breakout sessions. I lost the schedule that was in front of me.
It's going to be the session.
So that's right. Oh, right after lunch is still in the dining room with our Ed and Rhodes presentation that Lunas is leading us. So lunch, yeah. So that will be a key thing. Lunch will really have to wrap up a little bit before 1. So we'll want to eat. If you like having a little bit of extra time besides eating, go eat first, and then take you a little bit of time to come back for that session, so we have the room clean for our in-rows presentation. Claudia, I did find a couple light switches that I switched off. Did it make any difference at all? Until I got to the slide that had green printing or white printing on a green background, I realized how bad those were. They all look great on a computer screen. Right. And who wants to? Yeah. Who wants to? Okay.
I actually see that out. I might be so.
Yeah, I looked at it, but I forget it.